Has your club been doing the exact same thing the exact same way for years? Maybe it's been working well for you. And maybe your meetings and events have become stagnant and increasingly drawing lower attendance. In this training, we'll spend some time looking at what questions your club needs to ask when considering changes to its events, what goes into designing an event experience, and a few ideas that can help you shake things up. This is Reinventing Your Club Events. Before we get started, remember, there's no roadmap to change. What works for one event, set of volunteers, or club may not work for the next. Essentially, every route is going to be different. You must give yourself permission to test things out, give programs time to adjust, give your members the ability to participate in the process, and your attendees the opportunity to share feedback. The decision to change is never easy. It might not even mean making these sweeping alterations that totally uproot your event. It could be just a few small shifts that better accommodate your audience at any given time. What I'm trying to say here is that even if your meetings and events are highly successful, a need to adapt could come up at any point, so it's important to constantly evaluate where you're at and where you want to be. So how do we get started? We've put together 5 common questions and areas your club can consider when reinventing a special event or making changes to its traditional meetings program. First, let's look at your targeted outcome. What experience are you trying to create for your members? Are you wanting to put together a community service project or bring informative speakers to your monthly meeting? Maybe you're just trying to inject more fun. The answer to this very basic question is what determines your end goal, which in turn informs your objectives and planning process. Now let's think about the mission of your event. What do you want to make possible for your members? For example, if you're trying to get them excited about the hearing health mission, the best route might not be a traditional PowerPoint about the various Sertoma programs. Instead, you might think about a hands-on service project handing out earplugs at a large public event, a field trip to a facility with a hearing loop to see how it's used in action, having guest speakers who personally benefit from the work you do, or interactive club sign language classes. On to finding your frequency. This one really applies to club meetings, but may also have some relevancy to other areas. Ask yourself, what's right for your members? Is weekly too much to ask? Are you more of a club that should meet bi-weekly or monthly? Or maybe you should have a split schedule with some meetings in the morning and some in the evening to better accommodate retired and working members alike. You might need to even consider a more non-traditional way of meeting by holding periodic virtual meetings online. Did you know that Sertoma has a tool for that? You can check out the Club Resources page in the Sertoma Member Center for more information. Many Sertoma clubs are steeped in tradition. It is important to honor where we come from. However, it can be a slippery slope to get too attached to the way things have always been. It creates an environment where we're unable or unwilling to change, and that could lead to the ultimate downfall of an event, or even worse, a club. So how do we navigate this? We must think about what we need to keep and what we can let go. It's important to not let yourself get too wrapped up in nostalgia and bias. After all, it can be these very things that are turning people off. That's why your members are such a great resource. Talk to them to find out what they love and what they'd rather see go away. Make sure to pay a special attention to your younger members, as they can give some valuable insight to what might appeal to your recruits in the future. And what is holding you back? This can be an especially scary question to ask. It may mean eliminating much of your hierarchy or creating environments where there's no ranking order. Essentially, you're giving yourself the room and space to unstructure your structure. This may actually speak to a larger conversation. Just make sure that your changes are well thought out, deliberate, and follow the standards set forth by your governing documents. And if you have questions about if something's allowed, Sertoma staff can be a great resource to help you navigate through these uncharted waters. So your club has answered the questions and decided that it's time for change. Now the fun part begins. In the realm of membership, we want to design experiences, not merely plan events. The objective is to spark shared inspirations that ultimately speak to our club's mission, vision, and goals. Planning expert Don Neal of 360 Live Media describes this as pumping up the personalized pizzazz. He recommends using the 6 R's when creating a new experiential immersion. These are reach, relevance, reputation, retention, revenue, and return on investment. Let's start with reach. Are you really reaching everyone you want to reach? The goal for most events is to build participation over time. Whether this means the number of volunteers taking part or how many people show up to your monthly meetings, you want to make sure that you're getting to the broadest part of your base. Relevance. This seems to be a buzzword in many parts of our lives these days. We know how busy the world around us is, but it's never been more important to be relevant to our audience. So I'd suggest thinking about this in 2 ways. First, think about your attendees. Do your activities have an important purpose to the majority of the people who take part? If you answer yes, great. If not, it's time to reconsider. Then, consider your club's mission. Remember, your mission should guide everything you do. If it doesn't apply, you may need to rethink the event so that it makes sense for what your club is trying to achieve. We all know reputation is everything. It's why agencies like the Better Business Bureau and Charity Navigator are so important to us. The same is true for your club. We all have an idea of what it means to be seen positively by not only our members, but also in the communities that we serve. Make sure that your events are a manifestation of that reputation. Retention represents our ability to keep someone coming back. According to Neil, we do that when we meet our largest membership segments. Remember reach? It's really going to help out here. What is a realistic event retention goal, you might ask? Neil puts it at about 60%. Just keep in mind, while ultimately tied together, we're talking specifically about event retention here, not membership. The goals and paths are likely going to be pretty different. Fundraising revenue. It's what allows our Sertoma clubs to do all the amazing and generous things we do all over the United States and Canada. This one is pretty common sense, but still needs mentioning. Your events need to make money. This is especially important for 501c3 organizations like Sertoma. We exist because we're fundraisers. Dean sets a goal of 10 to 15% growth. Just keep in mind that when your events are newer, it might not make money right away. That's typically okay, as it takes time to work out the kinks and build awareness. And finally, ROI, the return on investment. Are you getting out of it what you're putting into it? This means more than just money. It includes basically everything we've just talked about here. Building awareness, upholding or improving your club's reputation, expanding your audience, and much more. Don't forget to also think about the amount of time you put into planning, promoting, and working the event. The amount invested needs to make sense for your outcome. All right, now let's get to some actual ideas. Get new people there by partnering with other service clubs in your area. While you might think this is your competition, they actually make for awesome community partners. After all, you have the same goal, bettering the lives of those in your area. New name, new theme. What better way to reinvent yourself than with a little rebranding? Take advantage of trends in pop culture and popular things going on in your city. It doesn't have to be forever, but it might just be what you need right now. Technology. Rather than fear it, let it be your best friend. Find ways to make your events more immersive and accommodating than ever before. For instance, are you doing a Celebrate Sound? Really put focus on your online fundraising element to welcome those who can't participate or make it the day of the event. Have a booth at a community fair? Do pop-in Facebook Live interviews with volunteers working the event or people who stop by the booth. And if you have a big fundraiser, think about streaming the entire thing via Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram. Most of it's pretty simple, can be done with just your smartphone and very minimal setup. Create event ambassadors. These volunteers exist to shepherd your attendee experience. From serving as greeters to acting as sort of a roaming help desk, ambassadors can be an excellent way to put your best foot forward. And if you have a theme that lends itself to silly costumes and such, this can be a really great way to just have some good old-fashioned fun and get more volunteers involved. When we have a personal stake in and enjoy it, we're likely to keep on coming back for more. And finally, the perennial favorite, content. More specifically, we're talking about education and training. You can change how your attendees learn. Consider options like real-time learning, which utilizes open conversations based on topics that arise right there in the room. What about peer experts? Your club likely has a roster of people with interesting careers, hobbies, and areas of expertise. Let them teach. It might also be good to think about how you can make things more personalized. Bring it up at your next board or programs committee meeting to see what the term means to your club and how it can be implemented. One final note on phasing and change. Most changes aren't going to happen all at once. They're going to take some time to phase in. This may mean hosting an initial meeting to introduce the change and then providing periodic updates to your membership. Dean cautions us, however, that incremental change must be monitored carefully or we can get stuck in what he calls better sameness. He recommends imagining what you want the event to look like 3 years down the road. Most changes don't require that long of a timeline, of course, but it can help you figure out what it takes to get to that final destination. This concludes today's training. You can access additional guidance on this and many other topics in our Member Center at members.sertoma.org. We also invite you to join the conversation with us on Facebook at the link on your screen.